Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look back, way back to 1994,
Right.
to revisit a really landmark business book, Built to Last, by Jim Collins and Jerry Porras. Hugely
Oh,
influential.
absolutely. A foundational text for a lot of
But your
people.
whole generation of leaders, yeah. But here we are in 2025. Things are different, much faster.
Definitely. The landscape's changed completely.
So the question for us, our mission today is this book just a nice memory, a relic of a slower time? Or do its core ideas, still hold up?
That's the core question, isn't it?
We're digging into the original research here, that big study comparing 18 visionary companies with their competitors, looking for what made them last across generations, what really gives a company that staying power.
And what's really interesting right off the bat is that their big finding wasn't about just, hitting quarterly numbers or maximizing shareholder value in the short term. That was kind of the thinking back then.
Right.
No, they found these companies weren't just successful for a bit. They were enduring. They consistently beat the market, survived downturns, leadership changes, the works.
Enduring stability. Okay, that's the bedrock we need to explore first. Let's lay out those original 5 pillars from the book. The principles that define longevity back in the 90s. First up, and maybe the most central, was core values.
Yeah, core values. It sounds simple, almost obvious now maybe, but their point was profound for the time. These visionary companies weren't just about making money.
Okay.
They had this fundamental philosophy, a set of core beliefs and ideology that stayed absolutely fixed, even in a crisis. It wasn't just words on a wall. It was deep, almost rigid.
Okay, but hang on. If it's rigid, how do you avoid getting stuck? If values are unchanging, how does the company innovate or, change its products without breaking that foundation?
That's a great point, and it leads right into the next principle.
Hmm.
They had a really specific view on money. Profit is fuel, not the goal.
Ah, I remember that analogy. Profit's like gasoline for the car. You absolutely need gas, can't go anywhere without it. But your whole trip isn't just about driving to the next gas station.
Precisely. The destination, the point of the journey, was defined by those core values, by the mission. And if you stop and think about it, wow, that was pretty radical for the 90s.
Yeah, it flew right in the face of the whole maximize shareholder value above all else's mantra.
Totally. It was a direct challenge.
So, okay, values are the philosophy, profit is the fuel. How did they make sure this stuff actually stuck? Especially when leaders change. That brings us to the third point, right? Strong organizational culture.
Yes, and this wasn't about, free snacks and ping pong tables.
Yeah.
Collins and Porras talked about a cult-like intensity around the core ideology in these companies.
Cult-like. Really?
Well, in the sense of deep alignment. They weren't trying to be everything to everyone. They were super rigorous about hiring people who genuinely fit that culture, that way of working. And they were pretty quick to encourage people who didn't fit to leave.
So, less about skills, more about character and fit.
Yeah.
And promoting from within.
Very much so. Build the culture, protect the culture. That was key.
Okay, so you've got this deeply aligned culture. Where do you point it? That leads to the one everyone remembers. BHGs. Big, hairy, audacious goals.
The BHEs, yeah. These weren't just targets. They were huge, galvanizing, long-term missions.
Yeah.
Often things that seemed almost impossible when they were first set.
Like Kennedy saying, put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. That kind of scale.
Exactly that kind of scale. They were crucial because they forced the organization way outside its comfort zone, forced innovation.
Which is interesting because think back to the 80s, early 90s. The era of the celebrity CEO was massive. Jack Welch, people like that, icons.
Right.
So this final principle seems like a pushback against that whole idea. Organization over leaders.
It really was a huge shift in perspective. The research showed that the companies built to last focused intensely on building the systems, the processes, the culture first. The organization was the clock, designed to keep ticking regardless of who was winding it.
The clockmaker comes and goes, but the clock endures.
Beautifully put. Leaders are temporary, even the most visionary founders. But the structure, the culture, the mechanisms, that's what needed to last. Relying solely on one brilliant person, that's fragile.
Okay, let's recap the 1994 picture. They shifted the conversation from just short-term cash to meaning, mission, building this stable structure designed to survive generations. And companies like Disney, HP, 3M were the poster children.
They were the examples everyone pointed to.
But fast forward, decades later,
Yeah.
2025, and, well, the speed of everything has just fundamentally changed, hasn't it?
Dramatically.
Let's pause there then. Let's really unpack the friction. What are the specific pressures today that are making those solid 1994 pillars look a bit shaky?
Well, I think the biggest thing, the overarching shift, is the definition of longevity itself. Back then, built to last meant stability, resisting change almost.
Right, like a fortress.
Exactly. Today, longevity means, well, it means longevity through constant change. Being adaptable, that's a fundamental flip.
So stability can actually be a weakness now.
It can be. Think about technology and AI. In the 90s, innovation cycles were slower, more predictable maybe.
Yeah, you had more time to react.
Today, tech disruption can happen overnight. It's existential. A company built for painstaking 10-year shifts in process that 90s durability just can't keep up when a competitor can spin up a whole new model using generative AI in, 6 months? Slowness becomes a massive liability.
And it's not just tech, is it? The people have changed, too. Generational shifts. Gen Z coming into the workforce, becoming consumers, they seem to demand something different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Transparency and ethics aren't optional extras anymore. They expect it. And they have, let's say, a very low tolerance for corporate BS, for hypocrisy.
Right, you can't just have values written on the lobby wall if the company doesn't actually live them.
Exactly. Gen Z has this built-in sniff test, and they'll use social media to call out any gap between talk and action instantly. Accountability isn't just internal anymore. It's global, public, immediate. Values have to be real, lived, ethical, or you lose them.
And layered on top of all that, we've got just sheer market volatility. Global crises seem more frequent. There's geopolitical uncertainty, climate change impacts, supply chains feel fragile.
Unimaginably fragile compared to the relatively stable post-Cold War vibe of the mid-90s. Financial stability now is completely tangled up with environmental sustainability, social responsibility. It makes just staying stable incredibly complex, exponentially harder.
Okay, that context really paints a picture. We can't just ditch the idea of meaning and purpose that Built to Last championed. That still feels important.
Crucial, I'd argue.
But the way you achieve endurance clearly needs a major redesign. We're moving from maybe built to last to something more like built to evolve.
That's a great way to put it. And that evolution needs, I think, 5 key updates to those original principles, starting with core values.
Right. The original said immutable, fixed, but today, that
Yeah.
needs to shift from core values to core and adaptive values? How does that work?
The core philosophy, the fundamental why of the company, that still needs to be genuine, authentic. But you need a built-in way to update and integrate critical operational values as the world changes.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Think about environmental sustainability or digital ethics. For a bank in 1994, maybe those weren't front and center core issues. Today, they're absolutely critical, non-negotiable values. You have to weave them in without losing your soul, your central mission.
But isn't there a danger there, a tension? How do you make sure adapting values doesn't just slowly water down the core until it's meaningless? Where's the line between adaptation and dilution?
That is the tightrope walk for leaders in 2025. It takes constant vigilance, and it connects directly to the next revision, the one about profit. The original book called it Profit as Fuel. We need to upgrade that thinking to profit plus purpose.
Okay.
Profit's still the fuel, absolutely essential, but the purpose needs to be much clearer, much more explicit, and directly linked to solving real external problems, social, environmental, whatever fits the mission.
So purpose-driven brands aren't just a niche thing anymore.
No way. It's becoming the baseline expectation. If you want top talent, if you want loyal customers, you need to show you're about more than just the bottom line. That purpose has to be baked into the business model, not just slapped on by marketing.
And that focus on external impact must change the culture piece too, right? The original was very inward-looking. Culture. Now it needs to be culture plus community. Why bring the outside in?
Because the market demands it. And because longevity now comes from being deeply connected. Your external community, your users, your fans, even your critics, they expect to have a voice, to feel involved, almost like co-creators.
So it's less about controlling the message internally.
And more about facilitating a dialogue, externally and internally. Being transparent, embedding yourself in the lives and values of your stakeholders. That's where resilience comes from now.
Okay, let's talk BHAs. Big, hairy, audacious goals. Inspiring, sure. But if the market's volatile, a rigid long-term goal could become an anchor dragging you down, couldn't it? If you need to pivot fast.
Exactly. That's why BHAGs need an update too.
Yeah.
They need to become BHA flexible Gs.
Flexible, so still big and hairy and audacious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You still need that inspiring North Star, get to Mars. But the path to Mars has to be adjustable, based on funding realities, new tech breakthroughs, global events, whatever.
Like SpaceX, the Mars goal is fixed, but the rocket designs, the timelines, they seem to change constantly based on testing and data.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
The grand vision provides the anchor, the motivation. But the method, the milestones, the specific tactics, those have to be fluid, adaptable, constantly revisited.
Makes sense. And the final piece, moving beyond just the internal structure. The original was organization over leaders. But in a world of constant external shocks and opportunities, just focusing inward isn't enough. So it becomes organization plus ecosystem.
Yes. You can't thrive in isolation anymore. Longevity today demands building and managing a whole ecosystem of collaboration.
What does that look like?
It means strategic partnerships with suppliers, deep integration with tech platforms, working with startups for innovation, sometimes even co-opetition, collaborating with rivals on industry standards that lift everyone. The organization that endures is the one that's best connected, influencing and managing its network outside its own four walls.
Okay, that paints a pretty comprehensive picture for 2025, but we have to address the big criticism, the elephant in the room.
Go for it.
A lot of the original built-to-last examples, HP is the classic one, they've really struggled, gone through huge turmoil, maybe even declined. Doesn't that kind of invalidate the original principles?
A fair question. And visually, looking at HP's journey over the last couple of decades, you could definitely draw that conclusion. If you just focus on the names of the book, it might seem like it has an expiry date. But if you look at the principles, especially the updated principles we just discussed, you see the underlying relevance is still there.
So what went wrong for a company like HP in this revised view?
Arguably, it wasn't that they lacked core values initially. It was that they became maybe too rigid, institutionally unable to make those adaptive changes we talked about. They focused too much on the original definition, core stability, internal strength, and maybe didn't build the muscle for constant flexibility, for ecosystem thinking, for that built-to-evolve mindset quickly enough when the tech tsunami hit.
They were built to last for the 90s, but didn't adapt to be built to evolve for the 2010s and 20s.
Something like that, yeah. The environment changed faster than their ability to fundamentally adapt, perhaps.
So wrapping this all up, what's the core message about longevity today? What's the final takeaway?
I think the truly enduring organization in 2025 isn't just stable. It's one that builds continuous structural change into its very DNA. It doesn't just try to weather the storm. It builds the internal capacity to constantly renew itself. By integrating new tech, adapting its values thoughtfully, embracing its ecosystem, all without losing that core sense of purpose. It's less like an old oak tree resisting the wind and more like maybe an organism that constantly sheds its skin, adapting to stay alive and thrive. Not patching old armor, but growing new skin.
Stability versus the capacity for radical, constant renewal. That's a really powerful distinction for anyone trying to navigate, this. So to summarize for you listening, 1994's Built to Last shifted focus to meaning over just profit, aiming for structural stability. The 2025 update keeps the meaning, adds purpose explicitly to profit, but demands flexibility and ecosystem thinking on top.
Well summarized.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on. If you were starting an organization right now, today, in 2025, where would you put the heavier emphasis? On locking down those immutable core values to give you that psychological anchor and clear mission? Or on embedding constant radical flexibility and adaptive speed deep into every single part of your operation? Which focus offers the better insurance policy against the relentless volatility we're all facing?